accident and you don't know what to do. Who do you call? Who can you trust to make your car look like new? Where there's only one name you need to know, there's only one place to go. Dave's Auto Body. You better call Dave's.
All right, so welcome to Dave's Autobody. You'll notice if you come on over here, this is our great reception staff here, Samantha and Keegan. They get, I call them the dream team actually. They get all kinds of accolades for the level of service that they provide. I just had a call from a customer today bragging about them, in fact. One of the things we enjoy at Dave's Autobody is our long relationship with employees. We have so many long-term people, many people here over 30 years. This is our Wall of Fame. With our Wall of Fame, we take photographs of all of the employees and we have them sign it as if it's an autograph, put it on a clipboard, stick it up. And you know what happens? It really humanizes the experience. And one of the things I enjoy most about the humanized experience is I want the customer to realize it's an actual person. It's not just some technician that fixed your car. And I want the technician to realize it's a person's car. It's not just an RO. So we have a nice customer waiting area here that has become a little bit legendary with special coffee. In addition to some other things, we have Bloody Marys available upon request for like our Detail for Life customers that come back. That actually was an idea that came from customers and worked out pretty well. One of the things we teach in our master's classes is the importance of live scorekeeping. So that's an example of that halfway through the month, kind of showing what our performance should have been versus what it really is. That also has turned into be a kind of an iconic thing at Masters. We have a sales office here, another sales office here, comptroller's office. We have another scoreboard here that's the production scoreboard. It shows that we're currently actually above goal a little bit, which is nice. All right, let's go on out into the metal department. One of the things you'll notice in our metal department is that we have tile on the floor. And this is a porcelain tile. And the purpose of the porcelain tile is twofold. One is it absorbs sound, and so it's a little quieter than it would be if it were like a ceramic tile. The other thing is it's set on something called thin set, and that helps create a little bit of a cushion so the spine of the technician is protected a little bit. We have multiple lifts here so that the technician can work at the proper height. This particular system is called the jaw lift system, which vanishes into the floor when not being used. But when it's being used, you can see it can be used as a traditional lift. It can be used as a measuring device and a holding device for doing light pulls on cars. You'll notice the toolboxes here are all about the same size, same color. We do that for cosmetic effect, but also functionally, we like to have everything be mobile. One of the things that we use here is a dual line air system, and Chip is going to demonstrate the dual line air system for us here that shows how noisy air tools are until you hook a second line on there, a return line. That's called the ear system, EARS, and it has to do with the exhaust air, and it's a way to capture some of that air that you've already cooled and purified and put it back into the airstream, not to mention the ergonomic effect for the employee. So we have various lifts, and we do all of our own mechanical work here. We do as much electrical work as we possibly can. We pre and post scan every car so that we catch any computer glitch that may have happened during the wreck or even during the repair. As you disassemble cars, you can actually affect the computer of the car, so we do a great deal of scanning. Another thing we're real proud of here, you'll notice there's these vacuum hoses that hang. The vacuum hoses are mostly just to pick up dirt at the point of generation. So if you're sanding a paint finish or a filler, what happens a good deal of the time is that stuff will get in the air or get into the lungs of the employee, and we really don't want that. So that's turned out to be a really good thing for us. And again, for the health and safety of the employee, it's very valuable. Here's an interesting big job you got two guys working on that's replacing an entire frame on a pickup truck as opposed to repairing it. You can see where the old damaged frame was here at the end. That really wouldn't be, you wouldn't safely repair that. There would be shops that would. In our case, we would always replace that part so that the customer gets a vehicle that's back just like new. So here's one of the things that I really like. It's called a truck box lift. So pickup truck boxes, when you live in the Midwest, you do a lot of pickup trucks. And the pickup truck bed has been responsible for a lot of back injuries over the year when a technician would try to manhandle it. What our goal is going to be here is to run that truck under there, pick it up with the box lift, run a dolly under there so that you set it back down and the technician never has to manhandle a truck box, but they can push it around a little bit. It's a department where a lot of teamwork is done. So we'll have multiple technicians working on a vehicle. So you'll see over here you got a couple of technicians, 3 technicians working together on a single vehicle, and we call those commando teams. So they're not permanent teams. It's just that when the right car accommodates multiple workers, we can put 2 workers or 3 workers on a car and process the car much more quickly than if you just had a linear process of one technician trying to take it through the whole way. This is our aluminum room. 30-some years ago, it was an old downdraft spray booth. Because we do aluminum repair, it's very important for us to isolate the aluminum from the steel. So as we do that, as we isolate the aluminum from the steel, you're going to find that it's just highly important and it's highly effective. A lot of times people think they can put curtains up to isolate the aluminum and steel from one another. We're uncomfortable with that. The nice thing about an old paint booth, using it as an aluminum room, it has its own air makeup system, so it's a completely separate environment. For those who have been to the master's class, we talk about the importance of knowing when a resource needs to be readily accessible and when a resource needs to be only available. We think benches, generally speaking, in body shops are just a source for clutter. So in this case, this is like the only real bench in the shop, and it's used for things body shop people would know, like laying moldings down and stripping double step tape off or putting some back on. This is a primer mixing area, isolated so that, again, it has good ventilation and safety for the employee. This is an employee break room. You'll notice in the employee break room there's another scoreboard because the employees are constantly interested in how are we doing, what would good performance be today, and how are we doing as we should be throughout the month. We've discovered with just body shop world is the parts situation can be chaotic. So when you have good people in parts, you really can appreciate some of the things they do. For instance, they open all the boxes when the parts come in and check for damage or correctness as much as possible. And then they put them on a rolling cart and wheel it to the technician as opposed to having the technician come and hunt for the part. So it's very effective. We have a good, from our ProfitNet, which is our body shop management system, has a really good label printing system. That's what you'll see on those green labels there. And that'll speak well to the body shop community. This is called our Triage department. So with Triage, the goal here is to have an estimator of record working with a Triage technician on every single car, doing an appropriate amount of disassembly. And when we do that, we find that the car flows through the work process a lot more quickly because you're discovering little clips and moldings and things that you just probably wouldn't discover until the car has some tear down. You'll notice there's multiple screens here. So Kevin has a couple of screens where he can access data. He can look at the estimate body. He can look at photos. He can look at other research things that we might use like all data. And then the big screen up here allows the Triage technician to be able to see what's going on the estimate body. So there's a lot of conversation and dialogue between Doug and Kevin. Next stop will be the paint shop. It's relatively modern even though it's only 20 years old, but you'll notice there's a high emphasis on orderliness and cleanliness here. We actually carpet our spray booths. We do that because it helps with, the employee feels a little bit better walking on carpet. It reduces some of the shock. It also helps keep the dirt down, believe it or not. The dirt tends to stick to the carpet and helps you achieve cleaner paint jobs, which is very nice also. If you know anything about paint mixing rooms, they're generally really dirty and stinky, but if you come in here, you'll notice that it's relatively clean and it has almost no odor. And that also is very important for the health and safety of the employee, plus just the organizational effect. You know, it has a great effect on attitude toward quality. You know, cleanliness we think translates into quality in the workplace. One of the features of Days Autobody and Masters is the no buff scoreboard. So one of the things that we're real proud of is year in, year out, we'll be up somewhere around 80% of the paint jobs that go through here require no buffing on the car. And that's really important because we feel like when you're having to sand and buff a finish after you've just painted it, you're actually damaging that finish. You're reducing some of the resin that should stay on the car. So we have this scorekeeping system where our technicians compete for like the Top Gun status every week, and then they have pretty high levels of achievement based on positive feedback. So the detail department's very important for us for a lot of reasons. One thing is it gives us an opportunity for entry-level employees. And our guys pass all the same intellectual honesty tests, integrity tests, and so on in order to work here that anybody would in any department. So it's incredibly important for the marketing of our organization. One of the things that makes detail so important to a larger body shop is you're going to see your customer in a collision maybe every 7 years. I mean, statistically, that's how it works out, 7 to 8 years. You can't build a relationship with somebody you only see every 7 years. So what we do is we try to offer as many opportunities for people to get to know us, come back and get to know our staff as possible. So we have this registered trademark worldwide on something called Detail for Life. So if we fix your car, your collision, and it meets certain criteria, which is pretty small criteria, we clean up your car 4 times a year for you for as long as you own it. And what that does, that takes that customer who started out a transactional, need-based, didn't want to be here customer to a want-based customer who's coming back to redeem something that they want, not necessarily need. And what that does for the marketing of your organization, it creates something called re-engagement. And so the more you can re-engage the general public with your people, the greater the likelihood is they're going to remember you should they need your core product, which in our case is a crash or a collision. So
one place to go. Dave's Autobody. You better call Dave.